I'd like to call the Charter Review Commission meeting of Tuesday, October 24th to order. Roll call.
Ballmer.
Here.
Craig.
Here.
Deeth.
Here.
Denning.
Here.
DeRue.
Here.
Hayek.
Here.
Kuchera.
Here.
Maliabo. Patel.
Here.
Item number 2 on the agenda is adopt draft minutes as presented or amended. Draft minutes for October 8th, 2024. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I will second.
Moved by Kuchera, seconded by Patel. Is there discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3 is the motion to accept correspondence. It appears that we have 3 pieces of correspondence. Is that correct, Madam Clerk? If I'm counting accurately, we have
I think there's 3.
from Mr.
Maybe
Dobbins.
go with several.
Yeah.
I could say several, couldn't I?
Could just
Yes.
say correspondence.
3, yes, 3, yeah.
I was just trying to, I wanted to make sure everybody received theirs.
Yes, I got them.
Okay. Is there a motion to accept the correspondence?
I move that we accept the correspondence.
Moved by Patel, seconded by
Second.
Deeth. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Staff response to commission questions previously posed. What did we have there?
Well, one of the requests was that we look at other examples of the use of the word "they" to
Right.
ensure that it was not wrongly suggestive of, instead of gender inclusivity, that it would be an improper use of the plural. And we did look throughout and found no other examples of where the use of the word "they" would be problematic.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank
Sure.
you.
Appreciate it.
Anything else on that item?
We asked about how Ames did their student.
Oh, well, I think we decided that we would just not recommend that, right? And, but that would be something that in the future, the city council might
Right.
be interested
I
in
just remember her hearing that,
Right.
so
Yeah.
check in.
Okay, item number 5 is review of city charter, section 206, mayor. I want to, first of all, I want to apologize to Kelly that we might not have been as clear with her last time about the order that we were considering this, and I take responsibility for that because I should have clarified that to you, Kelly. But I want to compliment our staff. I think Kelly and Eric do a great job.
Agree.
They have a lot of other things that they I won't say more important things, but just as important. So very professional. I really do appreciate it. Okay, at this time, this was one of the parts of the charter that we have talked about, and we certainly have received a lot of input. I think this is something that we need to, as a commission, come to a consensus on. Will we continue to have the selection of mayor as is presently in the charter, or are we going to propose that the mayor be directly elected? I'd like to start the discussion on this, and I will say I've had a lot of it.
Sorry, can I do a quick check-in?
What's that?
A quick check-in on what we've done in the past. Was there anyone who wanted to change the jobs description or the power of the mayor? In my memory, we didn't, but I just want to
No,
establish.
the only thing that has come up is whether the mayor should be directly elected, not changing that whether or not that person would have any more or less authority.
Okay,
Basically, right.
that was just a quick.
Right.
Make sure. Okay, sorry to interrupt.
No,
but go
that's
ahead.
fine. Interrupt any time because there's questions and we would like to have those answered for sure. I know I have, and I think all of you have received input. I've received it over the years, in fact, about some people definitely would like to see the mayor directly elected. Others like this way the system is presently. And I personally, having been and had the opportunity to serve in that position and as a council member, I appreciate what we have because it does lend for stability and it lends for cohesiveness on the council. And to me, that's worth something for this community. And I think it, as far as the staff is concerned, I think the staff appreciates that. My worry would be that we have an individual that would run and would have no experience and would be a person that, if he or she was elected, then would come in with the idea that they had a specific agenda that they now had endorsement from the community to put forward. And even though the position would not change as far as there'd still be one vote, I still think that it could lend itself to some problems and some issues long term. Not to say that you couldn't get good people running, but I've watched this over the last 50 years, and we've had, and I'll be honest, we've had some very good people as mayor, and some that frankly have not been as strong. But I think the fact that the council has worked very diligently during this time together to make that position such that it's not unimportant, because that person is the spokesperson for the city. That person does have to run the meetings, and that's no small task at times. But I think, and as I think it was somebody who wrote that our city is unique. Well, it is very unique, and this is one of the unique traits we have with it. And I just think it's worked extremely well. It's not only the last 50 years, it was prior to that, before we had the city charter. So the mayor has been chosen in that regard for the previous to that also. So, and I know there's been comments that there's a lot of, well, I don't want to say horse trading, but that when the new council comes on, then there's people behind the scenes that are making up the council, that are working to see who's going to get who that person should be. And I think that's probably, there's nothing wrong with it, because those people are all elected. And I've never seen anything nefarious that I can see. So that's where I come down at the present time. I like the present situation. I think it's served our community very well. We have a professional staff, a professional manager, and I like the stability, frankly, because I know what it was like before I first got on the council. There was a lot of instability, and that wasn't because we directly elected the mayor, but we had a lot of turnover with our city manager position, and I think that had to do with, in some cases, with council members at that time. So, Molly?
Yeah. You would like to hear from me?
Yes, I would.
Oh, okay. Good. Is everybody going to share?
I think so.
Yeah,
I think
we
everybody
should go
should
around
share.
and
This
share.
is very important.
Yeah, I think so too. Coming into this, I really felt one way, and through public input and our discussions, I've really changed my thinking. But again, as I've told you guys, we should come to this as a public person's avenue to make changes for the city, as it would need to be changed or not changed. And so I just really feel like the current model, where the council is selecting the mayor, really does promote the unity among council members. And I think it really does help encouraging decisions, that are, like we talked about, they have general consensus and they have that shared vision for the city's future. I really do think that helps with more of a cohesive government here in our city. So I feel that we should keep the mayor the way it is.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm just going to go right down the line here.
Okay, thanks, John. I've thought about this a lot, and again, I came to the table with a very strong opinion one way. I think I still have the same opinion. I hold it less strongly than I did. I see the arguments for the cohesiveness. I see the arguments for the consensus. My gut tells me that the chief spokesperson for the city, the leader of the people, so to speak, really should be directly chosen by the people. And I think that, the fact that our mayors have typically been top vote getters, I know both of you were, indicates, I think, that people would choose wisely. And one thing I've seen that's changed over my 34 years now, I think, in Iowa City, is it used to rotate more often. It used to be someone would do their 2 years and then someone else would do their 2 years, much like it does at the county where everybody has a year as chair and it pretty much rotates through everybody. And in more recent years, people have stayed on as mayor for longer periods of time. So, but yeah, I still come down on the side of directly electing the mayor, but I'll support the consensus of this body.
Thank you. I'd comment on that routine. I would agree with you. I was in favor of that, and then, because that happened initially, but as time progressed, it was very evident, like Mayor Hayek, he was definitely should have been somebody that was served more than one term, and there were others. Ernie Lehman was another one. So in that case, I could see it, but as far as I was concerned, I thought everybody should have an opportunity.
My experience, I don't know as much for mayor, but I do know that I've talked to supervisors, and being chair of the supervisors is more work and more time than being, rank and file member.
All right.
Yeah.
You're next, Ernie.
Actually, so I'm not going to speak in favor or against either one. What I wanted to kind of comment on is that while for this particular issue, the nice thing is they're both good options, right?
Yeah.
And it really is, they have different advantages and disadvantages, and it really is a matter of preference, right? And so while consensus is a nice thing, I think it would be good to signal to vote our preference and not worry about, consensus is nice, but, I think they need to hear that there are preference differences, and that's okay, right? The city council, because someday those preferences might shift from majority this preference to majority this preference, right? And so I would just like to, this and the other issue, I would just like to say, it's okay to vote your truth, right? It's okay to vote your preference, and that's not a bad thing. And then the city council kind of gets a better feel, right, for, okay, where everybody came down, after considering the arguments. Because you wouldn't want to say there's a consensus on this when, somebody else prefers the other thing, right? Not because it's better, just because it's different. It has different advantages. So I think we should not worry about consensus. I think we should worry about, or not worry, I think we should vote our preference so that the city council gets a better feel for the truth of, because, where everybody is. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
May I please ask what you mean by we should vote? What do you mean by we as in?
Oh, we.
us
So
or-
each
Bijou,
person,
can you speak
yeah.
in that so I can hear you?
Yeah.
Please,
So
thank you.
so each person, so there really isn't a consensus on this, not a true consensus.
Yes.
Some of us are willing to kind of go along, but I think it would be valuable to the city council to know this is strictly a decision of preference. The majority preference right now is this. Do with that what you are. So vote your truth, I think, is a good thing to do.
I think we can note that, certainly in the minutes, for sure.
Okay, I would like to, okay, I'm sorry, I have several things and I'm trying to decide where to start. Okay. I think I'll start where I think there is a lot of agreement with is starting with what skills we feel what skills the mayor should have. So it's what I see is to be able to be an effective to effectively communicate information about the city. To encourage the active participation of the Center Street in the city, so to help people to to encourage people to be more active in the city. and to create a close working relationship with other elected officials. Does anyone disagree with
Oh,
those?
and that's a good point. I think we do that. I really do. Now, Matt and I can tell you, we've always tried to encourage people to get involved, and it's
Yes.
frustrating when they don't. And that, we
Yes.
see that a lot.
Yeah, so what the purpose that I see elections being is they're really a job interview for people to decide whether or not they want that person to be in that elective office. I think voting, having everybody vote for the mayor helps to, they would be able to they'd be able to show that they can communicate with about the city, because that's one of the things they'd have to do. The fact that they have to, I'm sorry, I'm
Just take your time.
Okay, to encourage they will have to go out and get elected. And the one way they can show that they have a active working relationship with other is if they get endorsements from that election, other elected officials. And the other thing I want to bring out is one thing that I see as the goal of the charter is to create a closer relationship between the city and its people. Does anyone disagree that that is one of our goals?
Well, I don't know that I disagree. I just don't know how you know, this is a document that's pretty broad in general. You know, and I think we've addressed some things in the preamble, certainly.
Yeah.
Make some changes.
Okay. Yes, I know that is a little broad. What, like, one of the things that I see, one of the problems I see what our current structure is that people don't see how important the city government is to them. And I think by having somebody go out and have more contact with people, that they will begin to see how important the city government is to them. And the problems that I see two major problems with the current system. One is not all council members want to be mayor. And you're like, yeah. So there is always the possibility you could have a mayor that doesn't really want to be mayor. I realize since council members can be very ambitious, that might not be a common thing to happen, but it's definitely not a non-zero possibility, because you could have council members that are like, you know, all the council members being basically, I don't want to take over that, all that extra work, because we all agree that the mayor is a lot of extra work. So and that can be a problem if the mayor doesn't want to be the mayor, and that they won't be as attentive to the office as they should. And the other problem I see with it is that with a small group, there can be undue pressure than there would be if the mayor was elected at large. Because it's a horse trading, which I do see as a major problem, especially if you have somebody who it has a very strong personality and runs roughshod over the rest of the council. I'm not saying that that has happened. It might have. I don't know city government that well, but it's something that definitely could happen.
Okay?
I have one more thing,
Sure.
but I'll bring that up. Oh, the other thing, in answer to that, the mayor, that the one thing that I think all of us did agree is that we like the limit on donations.
I don't think that's going to change.
Right.
Right, but one of the concerns that was in our public comment was that if we start changing the system, that there'll be somebody who wants to challenge that.
They could.
They could anyway, mainly because we can't read other people's minds. It's hard to predict what they could do. We could not change anything in the charter, and there still might be someone who will challenge the donation limit. We have no idea. We can't really understand what people are saying. The thing that comes to my mind is some years ago, a lot of money was spent in the Coralville by outside interests. And that is something that I don't think anyone in Coralville saw that coming. And that could happen without us. That could happen any day to any city. The Koch brothers were the one.
Yeah, I think that
Yes.
backfired on them. I think people looked at the amount of money that was
Oh,
being
yeah, it
spent.
did,
and,
but they-
reacted strongly against it, and I would hope that I think Iowa City would have the same reaction. Obviously, whether our donation limit will hold or not is going to be up to higher court somewhere, and I like
Yeah.
keeping it in there, and then if it gets challenged, we do what the judges tell us. So.
Yeah, but so my whole point is we have no way of knowing if even keeping that changing the system increases that challenge, that chance, or changing it will change that chance. of
Yeah,
the
so I think the point is, there are concerns, but some concerns, because we can't predict, they kind of are a wash, because they could happen regardless. So concerns, anyway, so again, they're both good systems, and, but they both, could have problems, and we'll just, whichever system we pick or we prefer,
Okay?
Campaigning is expensive, it doesn't matter if you have a $100 limit. People are pulling out of their own pockets for their campaign. So although a limit is great, and I support what we have written to stay, but we have to recognize that campaigning is extremely expensive. Having helped run a campaign, I know.
Yeah.
And, people think, oh, we'll just set it at $100. Well, it's not that. They're pulling that out of their own pocket. So
Yeah.
you still can get other people helping you in different ways to be creative. So
Yes.
just saying, I appreciate what you're saying, but to be fully realistic, it is expensive to campaign.
It is. And one of the things Wellstone brought up is that
Who-
people, John Wellstone, he was,
Yeah.
Oh,
Paul, sorry.
Former senator from
Thank you.
Minnesota. Okay.
Thank you, was this in, is that people over time can overcome money.
Please say that again.
Mr. City Attorney?
People over money can
people
over
time.
If you have the people and the time to campaign, it can overcome any, somebody's money.
We're on the topic of how to directly, or whether to directly elect a mayor or leave it
Right.
as is. And originally, we went down the process
Right.
about, I was thinking this conversation was going to be related to that specific topic, but I feel like we've gotten a little.
I appreciate that. We'll get back on
Yeah.
target.
Yeah, I'm done. I just wanted to make that.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Hayek?
Well, and Eric, I think the nexus between the $100 cap and the mayor discussion is that there is one.
Right.
And
Right.
one has been expressed, so I think that's why.
Yes, that's why I brought it
When
up.
we started
There
going
was
down the
one.
conversation
Right.
about whether it could be challenged and so forth.
Yeah.
Sure, I
Right.
understand.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Well, Jennifer, you're finished?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate your comments. And let me just start out by saying, I think one of the concerns you expressed was a risk of a very strong personality running roughshod over people.
Yep.
I agree with you, but that's why I think the current system is the best way to prevent against that. I've made my thoughts clear to the group, so I don't want to go into great detail over them. I favor maintaining our current system. Primarily, that's because I think it strengthens the city council as a whole. I think it promotes diplomacy. It forces a mayor to be more diplomatic. I believe it ensures that a mayor has at least some experience as a regular city councilor before that person becomes a mayor. I think it's good for staff. I think it provides very important protections for staff. Those are the primary reasons. The only thing, and I've communicated that previously, the two new things I guess I would comment on, and this is really just a product of what we've gone through over the last many weeks, is we were looking for input from the community, which is a very important part of this process, and it's not an exact science. We get what we get in terms of who shows up and who writes us. And certainly it's a small percentage of the populace, but such is life down at City Hall. My read of what we have received tells me that a majority favors not making a change on this issue. And in fact, at the two public forums we attended, I think it was slightly more than 2-to-1 of the people presenting to us favored no change. So that's instructive to me. With a grain of salt, again, it's not everybody, this is not like a,
It's polling.
it's not Athenian democracy where every single person weighs in. But the other thing I wanted to just bring to our collective attention was the feedback from certain people we got. And by that, I mean people who have experience at City Hall. The perspectives I think I trust the most in terms of all of the input we've received is the perspective of people who are familiar with City Hall. And we heard from a former city clerk, at least 2, maybe 3 former department heads, former city councilors, a former city attorney, and almost to a person, they favored no change, and they gave us various reasons why. I know many of those people, and I respect their opinions, but I just I give added weight to what they're telling us because they've spent so many years down at City Hall and understand how our system works. And I think that's important. So,
Thank you. Bijou?
Thank you. I think I'll echo most of you guys, what you guys have said. I came into this, I'm actually more educated now about elections and mayors, even though I've attended meeting and I've actually been a Human Rights Commissioner for 6 years. I still didn't memorize a lot of the laws, but I appreciate this commission and what we're doing because I've learned more. I'm also in favor of city councils electing their own mayor, just because being out there in the community, I'll speak again for immigrants and refugees that do not understand the law. They just think of a mayor. It doesn't matter if he's elected by the people or the city council, they just think that he's a very powerful person. Just the name mayor to them give a
Yes.
powerful thing. So, and I favor the system now more so than being elected by the people, just because I'm afraid. I don't know if there's a law if somebody moved here, like in 3 months, and then they decide to run to become mayor, and they become mayor. We don't know where they came from. We don't know what their purpose of being here is. We don't know if they have strong opinions or a strong personality to run the city versus if somebody's already serving in a council and now is being elected by the people already knowing each other. So I was leaning toward that, and I heard other people, I think, like Commissioner Kuchera said, we're here for the people. We've heard the people that came here, the majority have said they like the current system. I appreciate the current system. I trust the city councils that are there. They're lovely people. They work hard. They respect each other and respect each other's opinions, either it's consensus or not. They choose well who they want to see to be a mayor. I just have a question. Is there a law or rules where mayor have to serve how many times in a row?
Oh,
There's no limit.
There's no limit.
term limit.
So that's the only issue for me, and I agree with you guys. It'll be good to rotate sometimes to give other people's opportunity to serve as a mayor to see. That's one thing I would like to see.
It's an interesting discussion to have. You know, I've gone back and forth on it personally.
Yeah,
I really have. And I think, though, where you have somebody that really has exemplary leadership qualities, that person deserves to be considered for additional time. But by the same token, with all things equal, I'd like to see it rotated. You know, that's my thought. So,
Maybe every 2 terms, after 2 terms.
yeah,
or so.
it's different. I mean, every council is different, and that's you know, and like has been said, some people that are on council really they don't want to be mayor, and that's fine, you know. But it's how the council works together.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just probably a little history on mayor durations would be helpful. I'm thinking back over the last 20-some years. Mayor Teague was elected in 2020, so he's got 4 years under his belt.
Right.
Mayor Throgmorton was 4 years. I was before him, I was 6.
Mayor
Before
Lehman.
that, there were 2 mayors who served 2 years each, and that's it.
Right.
Before that, was it Ernie Lehman?
He served 6, I think.
He served 6 years.
Right.
So the terms, at least going back
Right.
almost 20 years, maybe longer than that, have been between 2 and 6 years, 2, 4, 6 years.
Yeah.
And contrast that, our friends in Coralville tend to have much longer
Lifetime.
appointments. I mean, they measure that in decades.
Yeah, it's true.
It's just a different system.
To me,
Yeah.
I also feel serving longer just make people just want to just vote that name.
Yeah,
They don't see. I think this week I took some people in Coralville, because I'm also an ambassador in Coralville, to go and vote. And they were asking, who do we vote for? They don't even know. Even when they did the city council in Coralville, they didn't know who Mayor Foster was.
That's an
They just
issue
went
in both
Yeah, that
cities.
And so I appreciate also the being voted by the people, go out and meet
Yes.
the people, get to know the people, understand, have the relationship with the people so they can trust you to vote you for you. So I appreciate this system, and I think I like it to be kept that way.
Okay, sorry.
I'll just give you one other little history note before I get to Susan. When the first council I was on, Mary Newhouser was chosen as mayor. She was an outstanding mayor. And after that, Bob Verva served 2 years. I served 2 years after him. And then Mary Newhouser came back to serve a second 2-year term because she was obviously the best person to take it. It's just, but there was a gap. But she and I served on the council for 8 years together. So it was, that's something just from a historical perspective.
Yeah. And I just have one quick thing to say that I feel like I'm at a major disadvantage in that the people who would benefit from the change aren't coming forward. And that the people who benefit from the current system are very vocal. And that's with any change in elections, that the people who benefited, like term limits, the people who benefit from it don't want to change it, and the people who are out there that want to change it don't even know how the change would benefit them.
Okay.
I don't want to, not let the last people, but
Yeah.
one thing that I didn't know that Karen Cubby brought up at the first public forum was that when they polled the people, and again, grain of salt, but something like 87% of the people they asked wanted to elect the mayor. But again, and it's not clear why or whatever. So again, I want to keep emphasizing that both systems are good. You don't have to, you don't have to come up with reasons against the other system. It really is a matter of preference. And, like Jennifer, I would prefer mayoral campaigns that might increase engagement and education of the people about the mayor's role. But again, all of these are like potential things. But again, it's totally preference. Both systems are good.
Or can I just add something?
Sure.
I just want to say, you're right, both systems are good, and somebody new can come from outside and lead us, and it'll be actually better. So there's no
Right.
right
And
or
there's,
wrong.
and the last thing that I brought up at one point was, there's nothing against someone who was a former council member, somebody who was a former mayor. So if you directly elected the mayor, it would be great, right, if they ran, because then you would.
No, they wouldn't.
They wouldn't? They'd be like, I don't want this job anymore? But
We've
they
had
might.
our turn.
Yeah, but I mean, you don't preclude. Yeah. But you
No,
might.
I know what you're saying, Jerry.
Yeah. You just have, you.
I understand. I appreciate
I
that.
also want to clarify something. I'm sorry. I think Mayor Foster is a great mayor, and she's out there in the community. A lot of people know her.
Absolutely.
So I wasn't trying to imply that.
No.
she's serving
Oh, yeah,
her,
and I
but
wasn't
she's not.
either. I'm
Commissioner,
not saying anything
she's amazing. She's
against
great.
any of the people on
Right.
the council, the current mayor. I'm just talking about the system.
And Matt is
Yes,
considerate.
I think we have a very good city council and mayor. I just think the system.
Okay.
Commissioner Craig,
That clear awesome.
your
Yeah,
turn.
great.
Thank you for being
Okay.
so patient.
No problem.
Yes.
I would support leaving it the way it is for many of the reasons that others who support it say. I disagree with Jennifer that somehow the mayor could get the public more involved than council members can. I don't see that. I don't see who would benefit from directly electing the mayor from a citizen's perspective. And I believe that all the citizens benefit from the system that provides a working body that works together, that has chosen a person to be their nominal leader who's really no more than just one among equals. I think that the way that council is able to work benefits everybody. And I also particularly like the fact, we've just been talking about terms and things, that you can have, you're elected to 4 years for a council term, which I think is an appropriate number of years. It takes you that long to figure out what's going on, frankly.
Yeah, that's true.
But that we could get a mayor every 2 years. So someone could get elected to council and be 2 years into their, and then they'd have some experience, and then they could get to be mayor. And they could be mayor for 2 years or, longer. But I like the 2-year term as well. And the ability to look at that every 2 years and say, do we have the right person as mayor or not? So I'm in favor of leaving it alone.
Thank you, Commissioner Craig. And I will echo that as a person that was on the council for 2 years prior to being mayor. I could never have run for mayor because without any experience. Truthfully, I think the experience was absolutely paramount for me being a better mayor too.
I think also to comment, to go with what you were saying, one of the people that came and spoke to us at our open forum, who happens to be a council member, did speak on it as an individual, but also had reflection on the fact that it was nice that they could select who they thought would be a leader, right? Because we know that a mayor is actually a leader, and you have to select someone with the qualities. As I was writing down the description of what a leader is, essentially from what Jennifer was saying, and that is what a mayor is a leader. And so elected officials could then, as you were saying, select who that they feel would be the best spokesperson and
Correct.
Leader for that,
Yeah, I
for
feel
our
that way,
city.
too.
So just to go along with what you were saying with the community support.
Commissioner DeRue, you are up.
Quite patient.
Yes.
Well, I'll start by saying I'm in favor of keeping the system as it is with the current council selection of the mayor. For many of the reasons that everyone has already eloquently shared, and I have thought about this seriously for months now. And one of the other things that I've done a lot is talk about this work with my kids, right? This is the first general election that my 9-year-old's gonna remember. I'm gone on Tuesdays and Thursdays and what's a charter? What are you doing, right? And so really in thinking of this document as our city's constitution that was created by the citizens that we have the opportunity to review and reflect on and adapt, it's something I'm really grateful for to just have been selected to be part of this process. That being said, in thinking of it as the Constitution, I personally have a pretty high threshold for making changes to it because there have been so many people that have endorsed it and supported it and thought about it long before my time and will continue to do so after I no longer live here. And so with that, any changes, I had a pretty high threshold, and in reflecting on public comment, conversations that we've had, I did not feel that was met for such what I would consider a pretty radical change to what has been reinforced throughout the Charter's history. So that, in addition to all the many other reasons shared, I would be in favor of keeping the current system.
Thank you. And just for the record, you can't move. You're too valuable.
No, that was more eloquent, long after my time.
Yes, okay. Well, if we're taking, we don't necessarily need to take a vote per se. We can just say that a majority is in favor of maintaining the present system. We can note the commissioners who voiced an opinion that might indicate some, would like to see it, something else. But I think I want to compliment everybody on your thoughtfulness. I think everybody here has put in a lot of time. I've thought about it, and I've come from the fact that I'm started over, basically, because I've had to, I can't tell you how many times I've read this charter over the years, but it means a lot to me, and I'm thankful to all of you for taking the time to really share your thoughts, but I hope we'll now come to the conclusion and the consensus that this is where we're going forward with this part of it.
Or not consensus.
Yes, because
but-
there are definitely 3 people who have strong.
And that will be
feel-
noted.
Yes.
For sure.
So
Yes.
I think the language is very simple, and the better language is the majority
Yes.
That's what I meant.
supported
The
the
majority
current
is.
system. Right. And the-
Yes.
Yeah, and the word consensus really doesn't.
I don't think that was intended.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think
Yes, but
I
we
think,
went,
no, right. So in whatever cover report or cover memo
Yeah.
there is, should absolutely,
Say what it,
I'll-
yeah, sure, how it broke down.
yes.
I'll depend upon the city attorney to help me.
I think it's interesting, you said that there's about a 2-to-1 in favor of the present system at the public forums, and that's what we had here, so
Yeah.
maybe we're a representative body.
I don't know. Geraldine was neutral, so.
Well, no.
No,
I-
no,
I
she
didn't mean-
wants-
I didn't
We'll
mean
let
to
her
be
talk,
neutral.
though. What?
I actually do prefer direct election of the mayor for sort of similar things. Not that there's anything wrong with the current system. However, I think it could. I mean, to say it's just going to be impossible for a mayoral campaign to engage people and communicate with people, I don't think that that's correct. I think that it has the potential. So again, it's just different advantages and disadvantages.
I was surprised at the hearings, at the public forums, by some of the people who were coming out in favor of the present system that kind of surprised me. So maybe I've been, maybe not all the way persuaded, but partially persuaded.
Yeah.
Me too.
Can we go, can we hold the district till next time?
We are. We're going to.
Because
I just was going to get to that.
This has been
No,
draining
we're-
for me.
Yeah,
Taken almost, we've taken almost an hour on this. I assumed
yes.
that would be the intent,
That'd be great.
and that we would hold that till the next meeting.
I cleared my agenda for 2 hours and a half because I thought
This is the one.
You just knew there was going to be a discussion.
My furlough from work is relatively limited.
One night after the meeting, we met each other at Walmart.
So I don't think we'll talk, are we going to talk voter engagement or not? It's a little late in the game right now. Maybe we need to talk about our schedule. When is our next?
Yeah.
Because Mackenzie, you're unable to do this November 12th, correct? So did we rescheduled to November 7th, is that right, Kelly?
As long as Molly can make it.
Can you be there, Molly? We'll all be recovering from the election.
Some of us more than others.
Yes, that's what I was going to
I
say.
didn't have any.
some might move.
John will be still laying on the floor.
I usually get a decent night's sleep on Wednesday, and I'm starting to return from the dead on Thursday after an election.
Does that work?
That's a pretty quick turnaround, John.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
John,
November
some of us
7th?
aren't sleeping well, and we have nothing to do with the election process.
Yes,
I'm sleeping okay.
I'm not sleeping okay.
So
Okay.
we will then, our next meeting will be Thursday, November 7th.
Okay.
That meeting will be devoted to council districts. I think we'll probably have a very robust conversation about
Yes.
that. Whether we get into voter engagement or not, we'll have to see what our time is. And I'm assuming when you're talking voter engagement, we're seeing how we can get more, is this the idea that how we get more people involved? What is your
It
thought?
is, the way I was seeing it was mainly for people to be comfortable with a different way of doing elections, and then to just add a note to our covered letter that when new election forms come up, that we would like the city council to take a look at it.
Or I think Susan came up with more of a general thing.
Yeah.
Should we write a letter recommending that the city council think about how they could form a
Yes.
commission or whatever? and that how they could, do that
And
to get
encourage
input.
them to work with other county entities.
Yeah,
Right.
with other
But
stakeholders.
it really is a county-wide kind of
It is.
thing
Yeah,
you
it
want
is.
to do, because it doesn't pertain to any particular office or candidate or party.
Right.
or-
I mean, the League of Women Voters would be a natural vehicle for
Yeah.
that. But, I've watched this for, like you say, 50 years. When we first ran the first seven-person council, we had a lot of candidates. I mean, and we weren't lacking at all. And as time has progressed, it's gotten less so. We've seen more district candidates
A
that are.
couple of elections in a row now, or we only had 3 candidates for the 2 district seats.
Yeah, and to me, that's an issue, but how are we going to do that? How are we going to encourage more people? Because I'm finding just a great disinterest just from people who ought to be interested, because, the decisions being made are affecting them directly. But I think the fact of the matter is, if things are going reasonably well in the community, you're getting your garbage picked up, your water is clean, and you have great recreational facilities and public safety, you don't get a lot of interest. It's just the way I've seen it here evolve over the course of time. Not that they shouldn't be, because it's frustrating to me, frankly.
Yeah.
And I've I'm at the tail end of my time, so I've got to cede this to somebody else.
Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with a reflection of what happens at the national level. There is so much negative discord that the
People are tuned out and
the tone
turned off.
of critiquing somebody who doesn't do something you want them
Right.
to do is just nasty. And who wants to put up with it?
I would agree with you, Susan, and I think the fact that we're still nonpartisan here, that, in my mind, is a plus.
We've been through
Yes.
some of it with the city, and we've been through some of the same thing with the county, too, where just,
And I think,
And I do think, again, back to the way we're going to be electing our mayor, we hope, that cuts down some of that negativity, because, again, they're in that group together, and it would behoove them to be respectful to each other. And you don't hear council members, at least, I mean, you guys go to every meeting, I don't, but the tone that they take to each other, it can be argumentative,
Right.
but it's not overall disrespectful.
Mean-spirited or anything like that. I
nasty.
agree.
It's very
Right.
respectful.
I think that, back to what Jennifer was saying too, and Susan both, I think a message to the council to invest in some sort of commission would be perfect, but we will have to be able to ask the public, why don't you want to be involved? And I think some of us have just exposed some of those things, the reasons why the voter doesn't want to be involved is because of a lot of these things, It's hard. So I know we are going to talk about it next week, or next time, rather, but I
Yes.
just wanted to say that I think something very vague, because our duty as a commission isn't to formally recommend those type of things, but we can give suggestions to them about ways we would like to see things
Yes.
moving forward.
That's a really good point. I think also, people are busier
Yeah.
than they've ever been before. That's part of it. I would add that our utter lack of local journalism doesn't help. You no longer
Yes.
pick
I've
up a
mentioned that
paper
before,
and read
you're right.
about the vote coming up or the discussion last
Right.
night. And I think, and I say this from personal experience, working in City Hall for many people is a very unpleasant experience a lot of the time. It is a very charged environment. I would say most people aren't built for it. And there's just a lot of negativity, and maybe that's a reflection of where we are as a culture or societally. But a lot of people are afraid to stick their nose in it. I mean, they don't want to say something wrong, or they don't want to be criticized. You're in a small room and you have people yelling at you. It's almost easier to be in Congress where you're protected and you're just yelling screeds. You're just talking into a C-SPAN camera and you don't face the music. And here you face the music. So it's just a very charged environment. Which is unfortunate, because I think it does discourage people from coming down here. And if there are ways to address that, I'm all ears.
Yeah, and then also, one thing that the other thing that I think is preventing, which both local news is, government isn't really taught the civics. And so people don't know how government works. They don't know what the city does. There's not that connection to know, the reason my garbage is being picked up, my water is okay, is due to the fact that the city does that they take care of those things. And that one of my frustrations is, and I was guilty of it, is that I know that city and council government has more of a direct effect in my life than state and national governments do.
The old
But
Tip
it's-
O'Neill, all
Yeah,
politics
yeah.
is local.
I think, again, we can recommend that they form some kind of group which would have no trouble coming up with the problems. But I'm not gonna volunteer to be on that group. But maybe we could find some creative, maybe they could find some creative
You know,
answers.
I've known a lot of people that would love to serve on the council but don't want to run for it.
Yeah.
And that's, I've had people tell me that.
Yeah.
They don't want to have to campaign.
Yeah.
They just, there's something about it. And one of the reasons I got involved years ago is because, my grandfather was on the city council, so that germinated my interest, among other things. And then, being a small business person, watching what was going on. So there are ways, and Matt's father was city attorney. And so, there's things that do pique your interest.
Yeah, and sometimes campaigning and governing are different skill sets.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I also think, maybe I might use the wrong term, excuse me for saying this, but city council needs to do community service. When I say community service, I mean, we have young generation also that don't know, they study the government, but they don't know how it runs. Go to schools, speak to them, have something, a day where the mayor, few city council go in there like, this is our mayor, this is, and then speak about it, then reading, because these kids are reading it, but they don't understand what
Right.
it is.
That's a good point.
Go to these agencies and speak about it, know who our mayors are, who our city council are. I appreciate this country because it's completely different than, I would say, my country, Congo, where we cannot sit like this. People with title are more like gods, that's what I said. A lot of immigrants take the mayor as this person with a lot of powers, but in this country, the mayor sit with anybody on a table, coffee. I sit with judges and attorneys and mayors and everything. You don't see that in other countries.
We take that for granted.
Yes,
Yes.
right.
you don't see that. And I appreciate the simplicity and openness in this country. So it would be nice to meet now those people so they know who they are.
Democracy is messy, as they say. So.
Yes.
Okay, item number 9, community comment. Seeing nobody here. Again, I want to thank everybody. I think it was a very productive meeting. I want to thank our staff again. I really do
Yeah.
appreciate what you do for us. I really do, because I've been there. I know how that is, and you put in a lot of hours. Even though you're paid for it, you put in a lot of hours. So, item number 10, motion to adjourn.
Yeah, I do.
Moved by Molly,
Seconded.
second by Jareen. All those in favor, signify by saying
Aye.
aye. Opposed, motion carries.
That was the most.
See you on the 7th.
consensus.